interceptions and getting benched for Case Keenum. He only lasted 1 year there before being cut. It's incredible to think just a few years later. Pretty highly touted prospect.
6 touchdowns and 30 picks.
And he would end up being one of the worst quarterbacks ever. In 4 years with Miami,
No. 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 Johnny Jones was bad. Johnny Jones was so much worse than Christian Ponder. For the, who's this for? New England really hasn't had bad quarterbacks.
who spent 3 years in New Orleans and put up vomit-worthy stats of 9 touchdowns, 60 interceptions, and a 51.2 passer rating. He completed under 50% of his throws and was sacked on an astounding 15% of his dropbacks. He stunk so hard, he earned the name Danny Woeful. New York Giants, Joe Pisarcik. Pisarcik lives on in NFL lore for his infamous gaffe late in a 1978 game versus Philadelphia that's now...
Hey, I invited you.
43 interceptions for a comical 46.3 rating. The biggest surprise is that he somehow won 8 games there. Whoever lost to him should be ashamed. New York Jets, Bryce Petty. There have been many shitty Jets quarterbacks over the years, and who knows, maybe Zach Wilson will earn this distinction someday, but for now, it belongs to Petty, who finished his forgettable NFL career with just 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, Bryce Petty was terrible.
He also went 1-6 as a starter. This was the crap quarterbacks the Patriots.
Which is sad.
Philadelphia Eagles, King Hill. No. Despite being the first overall pick in 1958, after flaming out with the Cardinals, he lasted.
Do you agree with that, Austin, since you're a Jets fan?
What, Bryce Petty?
Yeah.
No. Not particularly.
Who was worse?
I would say Gino.
Gino wasn't that bad.
Well, I mean, Bryce Petty never really had the chance. That was the...
Oh no, it sucks because like I said, I liked Bryce Petty at Baylor.
The spot starter and accumulated 29 touchdowns to 51 interceptions for a gross 54.8 rating. In those 8 years, he went 5-12.
What the fuck did he last 8 years?
Who?
King Hill.
Steelers, Ken Nix. We think of the Steelers as one of the blue-blood franchises of the NFL thanks to their consistent success since the 1970s. But before the 70s, they were seen as a joke, and bad quarterbacks like Nix were a big reason why. In 3 years in Pittsburgh, he drew 14 touchdowns, 33 interceptions for a 46 passer rating. He started 12 games.
Absurd experience.
He would later go on to play for the Bears, who can't help but attract terrible quarterbacks. San Francisco 49ers, Ken Dorsey. If not for my attempts qualifier, I would have put Jim Druckenmiller here, but instead, Dorsey gets the spot.
I remember Jim Druckenmiller. Oh my God, was that dude bad? I think he was worse than
Dorsey.
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks, Kelly Stouffer. Stouffer's career is hilarious. He was drafted 7th overall in 1987 by the Cardinals, but refused to play for them, so he sat out a year until he was traded to the Seahawks, where he proceeded to suck major ass. In 5 years with Seattle, he started 16 games, going 5-11, and throwing just 7 touchdowns to 19 interceptions for a minuscule 54.5 rating. He would never play another down in the NFL again once leaving Seattle. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Gradkowski. I want to give a shout out.
Oh my God.
Who with just 90
Fucking Bruce Gradkowski.
He's not the worst.
Didn't meet my attempt qualifier. qualifiers, so the honor goes to Gradkowski instead. In 2 years with Tampa, Gradkowski threw 0 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Gradkowski. I want to give a shout out to Randy Hedberg, who in just 90 passes in 1977 threw 0 touchdowns and 10 interceptions for the Bucs. Unfortunately, he didn't meet my attempt qualifier, so the honor goes to Gradkowski instead. In 2 years with Tampa, Gradkowski threw 9 touchdowns and 10 interceptions for a dreadful 65 passer rating. He started 11 games and went 3-8. He managed to carve out an 11-year NFL career, mostly holding a clipboard. Good for him, I guess. Tennessee Titans. Dickey. Dickey would eventually go on to be an exciting gunslinger who had some good seasons for the Packers in the early to mid-'80s, but his time with the then Houston Oilers was dreadful. In 5 years there, he started just 10 games and threw 8 touchdowns to 28 interceptions for a 43.2 rating. He's one of those guys who kind of slips through the cracks of history. Washington Commanders, Ralph Guglielmi. Ralph Guglielmi sounds like a Sopranos character, but really he was just a shitty NFL quarterback from the 50s and 60s. Drafted 4th overall by Washington in 1955, he never came close to living up to the high expectations. In just 4 years with Washington, he started 21 games, going 5-13-3. He threw for 17 touchdowns and 40 interceptions for a 43.5 pass rating. Very, very stinky. Verizon Unlimited is going ultra, so you get more than
Fuck Verizon Unlimited.
I have Verizon.
I do too. Why the fuck does Grand Canyon University get so many commercials?
This is the College Tour.
Streaming now on Amazon Prime.
Goodness. It's in the middle of fucking Arizona. No one gives a fuck.
I'm going to name every NFL team's best quarterback ever. Please note, I am only taking into account what the player did for that franchise. Without further ado, let's begin. Arizona Cardinals, Jim Hart. Tough choice. Carson Palmer had an MVP caliber 2015 season, and Kurt Warner took the team to the Super Bowl. But both weren't there for very long. Every franchise record belongs to Hart, who played 18 years for the club, making 4 Pro Bowls. Team success largely eluded Hart, though, as he went just 0-2 in the playoffs. Cardinals fans are surely hoping Kyler Murray will one day make this question a no-brainer. Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan. An easy choice.
He's better than Vic.
I guess from 2011 to 2018, but after that.
Here, Ryan has thrown for almost 60,000 yards, 367 touchdowns, made 4 Pro Bowls, won an MVP, and came excruciatingly close to winning the franchise its only Super Bowl in 2016. He's kind of boring and will never wow you with his physical gifts, but he gave the team in turmoil its franchise quarterback for a decade and a half. If he had had better defenses throughout his career, no doubt he would have won more. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. It was tough to leave off Joe Flacco, especially after his legendary 2012 playoff run resulted in a ring. But let's be real here, Lamar is a better and more impactful player than Flacco ever was. In 4 years as a starter, he's made 2 Pro Bowls, won an MVP, and established himself as the best running quarterback in NFL history. The only thing eluding Lamar at this stage is playoff success, and if that ever comes, he could become a Hall of Famer. Buffalo Bills, Jim Kelly. Josh Allen will one day take over this spot, but for now, Kelly is still the guy. The Hall of Famer made 5 Pro Bowls and 1 first-team All-Pro during the team's glory era. Bills, it's impossible to overlook. Sid Luckman. The Bears' history with quarterbacks is so
Sid
awful, you have to go all
Luckman.
the way back to when he had
Luckman was phenomenal.
he had a good one. six-time Pro Bowler,
I know, but the
five-time
name
All-Pro,
is just
and
funny.
four-time NFL champion. He also made the NFL's All-Decade team in the 1940s. Imagine that. Chicago Bears quarterback making the All-Decade team nowadays. Hilarious. Cincinnati Bengals, Ken Anderson. Basically a coin flip.
Joe.
Gore Esiason's probably the best, I would say.
I think Cleveland fans today would take Rams' win-loss percentage from their current quarterback any day. Dallas Cowboys, Roger Staubach. Troy Aikman has the rings, but not the stats. Tony Romo has the stat, but not the rings. Staubach had both. A six-time Pro Bowler and two-time Super Bowl champion somehow was never named first-team All-Pro, despite his
Navy General Nice. Can you accept this friend? Because I think it's not letting me because of your settings.
Touchdown and 12 interceptions is pretty horrific regardless of the era. In fact, ever since the Lions traded Lane early in the 1958 season, they've been a laughing stock of a team. Don't fuck with the blonde mama. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers. One of the toughest choices of any franchise, as Green Bay has been blessed with three legendary quarterbacks in Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Rodgers. Starr won the most, but he just doesn't have anywhere near the quantity of Favre or Rodgers. Favre certainly had the quantity and won a Super Bowl, but also a lot of mess seasons and playoff disappointments. Rodgers himself has both the quantity and quality, as well as a Super Bowl win. Although his playoff career outside of 2010 can only be described as a disappointment. Still, Rodgers gets the nod here for his legendary efficiency and 4 MVPs. It's just a shame he hasn't been more.
What happened to you? Did somebody say something to piss you off? Asher?
God damn it.
What? What's going on?
Fucking ads.
Watson, the youngest NFL player can only be described as
Did they say Watson for best in Houston history?
4 MVPs. It's just a shame he hasn't been more consistent in the playoffs. Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson. The youngest NFL franchise really came down to two choices, Matt Schaub and Deshaun Watson.
Not Schaub.
Nowadays for his pick sixes, but from 2007 to 2012, he was a good NFL quarterback when healthy. But the choice here is Watson. Watson was on track for an all-time great rookie year before getting hurt. Then he made the Pro Bowl 3 straight years from 2018 to 2020, as well as the playoffs twice. Watson was primed to become an elite quarterback with a foreseeable future in Houston, but his his off-field habits ruined that. His NFL future is still in limbo as of this video, and his time with Houston is over. Real shame. Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning. With all due respect to Johnny Unitas, this was a clear choice. In his 13 seasons as the Colts starting quarterback, Peyton made 11 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pro teams, won 4 MVPs, a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP. Not to mention the shitload of stat categories he led in those various seasons. The Colts won 12-plus games under Manning for 7 straight seasons at one point. The only bugaboo with Peyton was always the playoffs, and his teams didn't win as much there as they probably should have. But the once hapless Colts were transformed into title contenders for a decade thanks to
On Henchman, I'm gonna invite you. I would friend this guy so you can join this, because for some reason somebody's settings is trying to get Henchman in here. And that's the reason why. Oh shit. I can't add him because you're not friends with him for some reason.
One of the toughest choices on this list was between Philip Rivers and Dan Fouts. Neither had much playoff success and tended to implode in high-pressure situations. But in the end, I went with Fouts due to a better peak. Rivers made more Pro Bowls, but Fouts made 2 All-Pro teams, whereas Rivers never did. Fouts also should have won MVP.
Really?
Who has more kids?
Over a goddamn kicker, whereas Rivers was never really in the MVP convo. Fouts also made 2 AFC Championship games compared to just 1 for Rivers. It's close, and on the right day, I might be convinced to go with Rivers. But this might all be for nothing, since Justin Herbert should take the spot one day if he stays healthy. Los Angeles Rams, Kurt Warner. Warner only started about 3 seasons for the Rams, but my goodness, did he make the most of them.
Let me know when you get a friend request from him.
All-Pros, won 2 MVPs, a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP. He beautifully orchestrated the greatest show on turf for success. He led the league in completion percentage 3 times, touchdown passes twice, passer rating 3 times, net yards per attempt 3 times, and adjusted net yards per attempt 3 times. It's a shame for everybody outside of New England that he couldn't win that second ring and see the 6 months.
Oh my god.
Miami Dolphins. Bob recently made Pro Bowl, 2 All-Pro teams, and won 2 rings. He doesn't hold a candle to Marino. Marino, to this very day, remains one of the most respected quarterbacks ever, despite never winning winning a Super Bowl. It's not hard to understand why. He made 9 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams, won MVP in 1984 with arguably the best season any quarterback has ever had. When he retired in 1999, he held every single record for quarterbacks besides interceptions. He led the league in passing yards 5 times, passing touchdowns 3 times, and he did it all with a flair and arrogance that was endearing to watch. If he played today, there's no telling the kind of ridiculous numbers that he put up. Minnesota Vikings, Fran Tarkenton. Tarkenton had 2 stints with the Vikings. The first was from 1961 to 1966, where he made 2 Pro Bowls before jettisoning off to the Giants for 5 seasons. When Tarkenton returned to Mini from 1972 to 1978, the team really took off. He made 3 more Pro Bowls, including winning the 1975 MVP. The Vikings also made it to 3 Super Bowls in this stretch, but they came away empty-handed. Like Marino, Tarkenton retired with pretty much every single record for quarterbacks. Tarkenton wasn't a great playoff quarterback, but his career and longevity is extremely underrated, especially considering the era he played in. New England Patriots, Tom Brady, just narrowly beating out Drew Bledsoe and Matt Castle for the honor. Brady's accomplishments in rings don't need to be rehashed again here, but I guess
Did he just say Matt Castle?
he made 13 Pro Bowls, 2 Pro teams, and won 3 MVPs with the Patriots, but those are all window dressing compared to the 6 rings and 4 Super Bowl MVPs he won with the franchise. Sure, as I've stated many times, I hated his style of play and how he always seemed to get bailed out in every big moment, but I can't change what happened, unfortunately. Hopefully he stays retired to become a full-time junk science salesman. New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees. I always looked at Brees as the unlucky version of Brady, since they were both Big Ten quarterbacks who played forever with a pretty boring style of play that put up huge numbers. The difference was that Brees almost always had terrible defenses, whereas Brady didn't. But enough Brady. Brees remains the best free agent signing in NFL history after joining the Saints heading into 2006. He ended up throwing for over 68,000 yards and almost 500 touchdown passes for the team. He won a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP in 2009. He made 12 Pro Bowls and an All-Pro team. Not bad for a guy who was seen as a risky signing at the time due to his shoulder. I think it worked out okay. New York Giants, Eli Manning. The choice for best Giants quarterback basically came down to Manning and Phil Simms. But in the end, I went with Eli for his unmatched longevity and, of course, his 2 Super Bowl wins and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. That's really the story with Eli. He was never an elite quarterback at any point of his 16-year career. He had 2 magical playoff runs in 2007 and 2011, but went 0-4 in the playoffs in his other 4 appearances. He led the league in interceptions 3 times, but he also made 4 Pro Bowls and threw for over 57,000 yards and 366 touchdowns. It's fitting his final career win-loss record was 117-117, since that's really what he was, average. But
Did you get the friend request?
Much appreciated. Thanks.
Did you accept
New York
it?
Jets, Tony. Namath is a
Nothing.
weird case of a guy who has been overrated
Yeah.
for so long.
I don't understand these settings.
Has never won a ring, but he was an elite quarterback for the better part of a decade. He made 6 Pro Bowls and finished his Eagles career with almost 33,000 passing yards and 216 touchdowns. He led the team to 5 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl appearance in 2004. He had his issues in big games and deserves some
Donovan
blame.
McNabb, though.
quarterback and excellent in the Super Bowl. He won 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and you could argue he deserved a 3rd Super Bowl MVP in 1975. Ben was not great in the playoffs, and especially not in the Super Bowl. Don't let Bradshaw's moron act he puts on for TV fool you. The guy could play. He had a rocket arm, and he accomplished a lot. San Francisco 49ers, Joe Montana. Another coin flip between Montana and Steve Young. And a while ago, I might have sided with Young due to his superior efficiency metrics, but after further review, it has to be Montana. Much like with the Bradshaw-Roethlisberger debate, it largely came down to the playoffs. Young had a stellar 1994 postseason and Super Bowl MVP performance, but his playoff career outside of that year is very underwhelming. Montana himself had playoff struggles from 1985 to 1987, but he's still the best Super Bowl quarterback of all time by far, won 4 rings and 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and his career playoff stats are arguably the best ever on a per-game basis. Oh yeah, Montana also made 7 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams, and won 2 MVPs with San Fran, so it's not like he was a slouch in the regular season. Joe Cool forever. Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Wilson came out of nowhere as a little-known 3rd-round pick in 2012 to become one of the NFL's consistently elite quarterback. Through 10 seasons, he's made 9 Pro Bowls and won a Super Bowl in 2013. He's famously never made an All-Pro team or gotten a single MVP vote, but that doesn't change how he's kept the Seahawks relevant as the Legion of Boom fell apart. Wilson has some of the best efficiency metrics of all time, and barring a sudden retirement or major injury, he'll retire with huge counting stats as well. He's going to deservedly make the Hall of Fame someday. I just wish he didn't throw that fucking pass to Ricardo Lockett on the goal line in Super Bowl 49. Why'd you do that, Russ? It really hurt me. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady. This selection speaks to both how good Brady was with Tampa, barf, and how bad the rest of the Buccaneers' history with quarterbacks is. Quite simply, Brady put up 2 monster statistical seasons in Tampa and won a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl with Tampa, but his stats aren't close to Brady's. Then you got guys like Jameis Winston, Josh Freeman, Doug Williams, and Vinny Testaverde. You can't be seriously argued over Brady either. It is what it is. God damn it, Jared Cook. Why did you have to fumble that pass?
And check your settings.
My settings are normal.
How do I go check my party setting? Hello. I don't know how to check my privacy settings.
Oh my god, did you hear the ending?
No.
So serious.
Oh my god. And who was this quarterback?
Shit.
1951 to 1953, there were only 10 teams. 1954, there were only 9 teams. 1955 to 1961, there were only 8 teams. 1962 to 1966, there were only 9 teams. In 1967, there were only 10 teams. And from 1968 to 1976, half of the best players in the world were in the ABA. So that about wipes out the majority of the Celtics titles. You're welcome. Now we start getting into the real shit after the NBA and ABA.
I know you love hearing that.
What? About the Celtics?
Listen.
And from 1968 to 1976, half of the best players in the world were in the ABA. So that about wipes out the majority of the Celtics titles.
Ah, losers. Suckers. Fuckers. Fucking bastards. I hate the fucking Celtics. Go fuck themselves. There we go. Henchman, can you still hear me? Okay. There we go. We got that fixed. I don't know why that was like that. That was very, very weird.
Coin flip over Chicago to get the first overall pick. Without Magic, there is no.
Anyways, where you at?
The Lakers title from the 1980s. The 1981 Celtics. The Celtics got to face a losing team in the NBA Finals. The 40-42 Houston Rockets. Can you imagine if this shit happened today with Twitter? The 1982 Lakers. The top 2 seeds in 1982 were able to skip the first round. And the 76ers were a number 3 seed, so they had to play an extra series before the NBA Finals, whereas LA didn't, thanks to playing in a far weaker Western Conference. For reference, the Sixers played 15 games.
The Western Conference was weak at one point? Man.
Yeah.
Winning series in 6. The 1983 76ers. Instead of winning 4 playoff series like real men, the 76ers only had to win 3 playoff series to win it all. Soft. Also, Lakers star rookie James Worthy was out for the finals with an injury. The 1984 Celtics. Lakers Hall of Fame forward Jamal Wilkes, who averaged 17 points per game in 1984, missed the first round of the playoffs with a gastrointestinal virus. He then lost his starting gig and became a non-factor in the playoffs. Despite this, Boston still barely scraped by LA in 7 games. It's not hard to believe that with a healthy Wilkes, LA wins. The 1985 Lakers. Boston's Cedric Maxwell, who won the 1981 Finals MVP, missed 25 games in 1985 due to knee surgery late in the season and was a shell of himself upon his return. With their finals opponent battered, LA cruised in a relatively easy 6-game series. 1986 Celtics. Instead of having to face their hated rival and 62-win Lakers in the finals, Boston got to play a young and inexperienced Rockets team that caught lightning in a bottle and upset LA in the Western Conference Finals. Unsurprisingly, Boston beat Houston in 6 games. Houston's 1986 title run would end up being a flash in the pan, as every player besides Keem Olajuwon would end up either leaving or self-destructing shortly thereafterwards. 1987 Lakers. LA faced a badly injured Boston team in the finals and didn't have to deal with Len Bias, Boston's second overall pick in 1986, who died prematurely before ever playing a second in the NBA. With Bias on the squad, Boston wouldn't have relied as much on their older veterans like Bird, McHale, and Parrish, and would have had a better answer for LA's James Worthy. Despite this, Boston still took LA to 6 games, but it wasn't enough.
No, I have some stuff to show you if you, wherever you are at. I don't know where you're at right now.
Barely played in Game 7, which Detroit lost by just 3 points. Also, Bill Laimbeer was called for a phantom foul on Kareem late in Game 6 that allowed LA to extend the series to Game 7 and waste a historic 43-point effort by Thomas in Game 6. 1989 Pistons. Magic Johnson blew out his hamstring in Game 3 of the NBA Finals, ending both his MVP season and the legitimacy of the Pistons title. 1990 Pistons. Arvydas Sabonis wasn't playing in America yet, so Detroit avoided him starting for Portland in the finals. Detroit also benefited from Scottie Pippen suffering a migraine in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals versus Chicago. 1991 Bulls. LA's top scorer James Worthy and top shooter Byron Scott both got hurt and couldn't play in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Also, at this point, Magic Johnson probably had, HIV, so yeah. The 1992 Bulls. Arvydas Sabonis, who Portland drafted in 1986 but wasn't allowed to join the NBA until 1995, was in his prime playing overseas instead of on the Blazers. losers. This is important because Chicago's biggest weakness during their dynasty years was the center position, and Sabonis definitely would have exploited that. It also didn't help that Portland completely shit their pants in the fourth quarter of Game 6 against Chicago's backup.
We need to go to sleep.
Chicago got to face an offensively challenged Knicks team in the Eastern Conference Finals before getting to
Oh,
face
wait, not you, Harold. We gotta come in the house to go to sleep.
Record in the NBA in 1993 went 0-3 at home in the finals, including the decisive Game 6, where they shot just 5 of 22 in the fourth quarter in a game they lost by just 1 point. 1994 Rockets. MJ was suspended and off playing baseball. Also, John Starks was a double agent of Houston, shooting 2 for 18.
Okay, cool. So, first of all, follow me. I was able to get this with the Silk Touch pickaxe. And believe me, it's very rare to get it, and I luckily got it.
Young Orlando team instead of the Bulls in the finals. Also, I believe.
It's a blaze spawner. Alright, and come down. Come on. Silk Touch pickaxe. With the new things, it has a chance. It's hard to get, but it has a chance of you getting it with the Silk Touch. Alright.
I didn't mention Nick Anderson
Over
missing
here.
4 straight free throws at the end of Game 1, which would have won Orlando the game, and completely fucked up Orlando's psyche the rest of the series, which ended in a Houston sweep. 1996 Bulls. The NBA added more expansion teams into.
We have like over like 2 stacks of diamonds and emeralds and stuff, and we have a ton of iron. So I went mining. And
but most importantly, Seattle coach George Karl inexplicably didn't put 1996 Defensive Player of the Year Gary Payton at until Seattle was already down 3-0. Seattle went 2-1 once Payton got switched onto MJ full time, but it was too late. 1997 Bulls. Utah flat out showed.
Let's get you some stuff. Let's get you some iron armor.
And 5 for 15 in Game 6, a game they lost by just 4. Also, the NBA was still.
In this chest, there's some iron. Grab it for the armor. We're saving the diamonds for when we go for the Ender Dragon.
1998.
Yeah, I gotta organize all this stuff. That'll be for another time.
4 for 15 in a game they lost by just 5 points. But the biggest asterisk is how.
Save the diamonds for right now because I'm going to get stuff for the Ender Dragon soon. So I've been preparing for that.
This was a massive 5-point swing in a game Utah lost by just 1 point. Also, MJ pushed off. 1999 Spurs. Lockout season. Only 50 games? Seriously? That shit doesn't count. They even got to play a shitty Knicks team in the finals. Give me a break. 2000 Lakers. Would have lost in the Western Conference Finals if the Blazers didn't completely shit their pants and shoot 5 for 23 in the fourth quarter to blow a 15-point lead.
Does this always come back on the frickin' Portland Trailblazers?
2001 Lakers lost games to Ray Allen and the top scoring Milwaukee Bucks in the regular season.
Like, come on.
Because Allen has all but
we're not that bad of a team.
Finals, Milwaukee lost 7 games. It was rigged so the NBA could get regular season MVP Allen Iverson in the finals against the Lakers, a series which the Lakers would easily win in 5 games. 2002 Lakers. Facing elimination down 3-2 in Game 6 in the Western Conference Finals, LA took an absurd 27 free throws in the fourth quarter of a historically controversial series. Also, LA avoided going down 3-1 by getting lucky on a scrum play under the basket that somehow ended up with the ball being tapped out right to Robert Horry, who converted on a game winner for LA as time expired in Game 4. 2003 Spurs. Dirk Nowitzki didn't play in the final 3 games of the 2003 Western Conference Finals with a knee injury, giving San Antonio an easy pass to the finals where they defeated a weak New Jersey Nets team. 2004 Pistons. After averaging 18 points per game in the first round, LA's Karl Malone's knee completely imploded by the finals and was a non-factor. Malone is a piece of shit. Chauncey Billups winning finals MVP isn't much better in the morals department. 2005 Spurs. The league expanded from 29 to 30 teams, diluting San Antonio's title. Also, Rasheed Wallace's massive brain fart late in Game 5 to leave Robert Horry uncovered for a go-ahead three-pointer all but cost Detroit the title, putting them down 3-2, having to go on the road to San Antonio for the final 2 games, where they ended up losing in 7. 2006 Heat. Miami took 52 more free throws in this series than Dallas, an astounding number. Mark Cuban was so enraged, he reported
Aw, Mark Cuban.
on the case to investigate.
Shut up,
Moving on
pussy.
to 2007 Spurs. Phoenix's Amari Stoudemire.
Mark Cuban was good. Amari Stoudemire was good too.
Suspended for a pivotal Game 5.
Mark Cuban's the owner.
For stepping onto the floor at the wrong time after San Antonio's Robert Horry
I know.
checked Steve Nash
He also
off the
played.
sideline. Instead of getting to face a veteran and experienced Pistons team in the finals, the Spurs got to face a Cavs team that consisted of LeBron and a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids. 2008
Oh my God.
Celtics legend and former Minnesota GM Kevin McHale called up his former Celtics teammate and former Celtics GM Danny Ainge and traded him Kevin Garnett in his prime. We all know Boston doesn't
Oh yeah, and this over here.
2009, they dodged LeBron, who averaged 39, 8, and 8 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and somehow wasn't enough. Of the 229 individual opponents that Kobe Bryant faced at least 20 times in his career, his lowest win percentage came
And,
against LeBron. LA got to face Dwight Howard in Orlando instead. Courtney Lee blew a point-blank layup at the end of Game 2, and Derek Fisher bailed out LA and Kobe in the clutch late in Game 4. LA won the series in 5, but it was a much, much closer series than people remember. 2010 Lakers. In Game 7 of the finals, the Lakers took 21 free throws in the fourth quarter, while the Celtics took 17 all game. Coincidence? I think not. 2011 Mavericks. It's obvious that a Mavericks fan with major mob connections got the mob to force LeBron James to throw the 2011 finals. There is no other explanation for his unexpectedly awful performance that allowed Dallas to
No,
win
it
the series
was
in 6
awful.
games. 2012
What?
A lockout season full of
Fucking
broken
LeBron in the
bottom finals. There is
2011
no other
finals.
explanation for his unexpectedly awful performance that allowed Dallas to win the series in 6 games. 2012 Heat. A lockout season full of broken bodies. Derrick Rose tore his ACL, torpedoing the number 1 seed Bulls season. The number 2 seeded Heat cruised by default to the finals and took down a young OKC team that never fully arrived. 2013 Heat. The reigning 2012 Western Conference champs OKC traded away future MVP James Harden and lost Russell Westbrook to injury in the first round of the playoffs, paving the way for the Heat to repeat. Also, Ray Allen's miracle shot saved Miami from losing in 6 games in the finals versus San Antonio. 2014 Spurs. In Game 1 of the NBA Finals in San Antonio, the Spurs' home arena's air conditioning, quote-unquote, malfunctioned due to electrical failure, and LeBron had to be carried off the floor due to leg cramps. San Antonio
I remember.
by 15 points, thereby invalidating the remainder of the series.
Nah,
Yes.
you don't.
2015 Warriors. Kyrie Irving
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't remember LeBron having cramps.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
functioned due to electrical failure, and
Don't
LeBron
get
had
your
to be carried
fannies
off
in
the
a
floor
lot.
due to leg cramps. San Antonio won Game 1 by 15 points, thereby invalidating the remainder of the series. Yes, I'm butthurt.
Jesus
2015.
Christ. Wait, why can't I find this shit?
Cap exploded late in Game 1 of the finals, causing an already injured Cleveland team to play scrubs like James Jones, Iman Shumpert, and Matthew Dellavedova major minutes the remainder of the series. Somehow, the series still went 6 games, largely thanks to LeBron's brilliance. 2016 Cavaliers. Draymond Green got suspended in the potential
Thank you.
clinching Game 5, and Steph Curry might have been hobbled, and Harrison Barnes
Thank
also
you.
missed several very open shots. Oh, and you can't forget how Andrew Bogut got hurt early in Game 5
Thank
as
you.
well. 2017 Warriors. Yep.
Just basically explained everything, the reason why we blew it 3-1. Curry wasn't 100%. Draymond was suspended. Bogut was hurt. Thank you. Just proved my point.
Durant joined to 73-19 because of a cap
Okay.
split, creating a team that was so overpowered they came within 1 game of sweeping the entire postseason without even trying very hard. 2018 Warriors. Chris
I
Paul-
was so butthurt when we lost that damn game in the finals. I was like, damn, we could have had a 16-0 playoffs.
hamstring popped while Houston was up 3-2 in the Western Conference Finals. Houston then missed 27 straight three-pointers at home in Game 7. In the finals, LeBron
Okay. They just sucked. They choked.
broke his
Huh.
hand in frustration after the refs
Did you-
finals. Houston then missed 27 straight three-pointers at home
Oh,
in Game
Houston?
7. In the finals, LeBron broke broke his hand in frustration after the refs, George Hill and J.R. Smith, cost him a brilliant 51-point performance in Game 1. But mostly, it's the same as the year before. Golden State doesn't win without re-signing KD again. They were a completely artificial dynasty that deserves absolutely zero respect. 2019 Raptors.
Cry.
Kawhi Leonard rested all season and got an extremely lucky bounce at the end of Game 7 against Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference semifinals that ended up nudging the ball through the basket. But let's be real. The real asterisk here is that Toronto only beat Golden State in the finals because Kevin Durant played just 11 minutes all series long, and Klay Thompson missed 1.5 games.
We would have beat, guys, quote me on this, we would have beat Toronto if KD was healthy and Klay didn't tear his ACL. Simple.
Maybe.
We would have beat Toronto.
Maybe.
Healthy Golden State steamrolled
It's tough how, you know, it's tough to say how something could have gone.
Miami had injuries to key players like
I'm not saying you would have lost. I'm saying it's tough to say if you would have won or lost. I mean, either way, it was still a good season.
Played just 11 minutes all series long, and Klay Thompson missed 1.5 games. A healthy Golden State steamrolls them. 2020 Lakers, a bubble ring. No crowds, no travel, and Miami had injuries to key players like Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo that gave LA an easy finals win. And finally...
Yeah, I remember. Bro, I'll tell you what, I obviously, because I'm also a Heat fan too, I felt so bad for Jimmy Butler. I felt so bad for him. He was literally, I remember Game 6, Jimmy Butler was literally on the sideline trying to catch his breath.
I'm not a Jimmy Butler fan, but I'm not a big person on Jimmy Butler. I just don't like him as a player. But I don't hate him like some players.
In the 2021 Bucks, injuries to Harden and Kyrie in the Eastern Conference semifinals are the only reason Milwaukee made the finals. And in the finals, they got...
What are you, Frankie?
What?
Good, but not great Phoenix team.
I was asking him if he's Frankie. Because listen.
And finally, the 2021 Bucks. Injuries to Harden and Kyrie in the Eastern Conference semifinals are the only reason Milwaukee made the finals. And in the finals, they got to play a good but not great Phoenix team who were only there largely...
So I said, what are you, Frankie? Because that's something Frankie would say.
Injuries to LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kawhi Leonard.
No, the Nets are just overrated.
Even though I just spent the last 10 minutes or so invalidating every single NBA title that's ever existed, just remember, every single NBA title ever is more valuable than any of Tom Brady's Super Bowl rings. Do you think any of us...
That's false. Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time, and it's not even close. I mean, maybe you consider...
He got bailed out a lot of years.
Some of them, yes, but he still won the game no
like
matter what the count.
28-3, we should have never blown that. We should have at least scored at least a touchdown.
Well, that was your own damn fault.
The fucking tuck rule.
Tuck rule's bullshit.
I'm not saying Brady isn't the best quarterback of all time. I'm saying some years he did get bailed out.
Oh, everybody gets bailed out.
Yeah. In In this video, I'm going to place an asterisk on every Super Bowl winner in the 21st century. If your team hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2000, then you should love this video. But if your team has won a Super Bowl, then prepare to be bugger. 2000. 2000 Ravens won the Super Bowl on the back of their famously dominant defense. The leader of that defense was Ray Lewis, who ended up winning Super Bowl MVP and Defensive Player of the Year and made many key plays throughout the season. The asterisk here is simply that Lewis should have been instead of on the football field. There's no way the 2000 Ravens win without Lewis. 2001. Yes, now we get into the good shit. Where to start on the 2001 Patriots? First is the obvious Spygate scandal that tainted all three of their rings in the early 2000s, but you also have the Tuck Rule, which was a terrible call that saved their season from ending in the divisional round like it should have. Simply put, if Tom Brady's fumble had been correctly ruled, there is no 2001 Super Bowl champion Patriots. We also can't forget about the uncalled intentional grounding penalty on Brady on his game-winning drive in Super Bowl 36. Damn, maybe I should make an entire video about Brady's cheating and luck. 2002. The 2002 Buccaneers had an all-time dominant defense on their own, but the asterisk here is how they got to face an Oakland Raiders team in the Super Bowl whose all-pro center Barrett Robbins went AWOL the night before the game, and whose coach Bill Callahan didn't even bother to change the offensive signals to try and fool former Raiders head coach and new Buccaneers head coach John Gruden. Tampa cruised to a blowout Super Bowl win thanks in large part to picking off Oakland quarterback Rich Gannon 5 times with 3 pick sixes. It didn't end up mattering in the end, but Tampa quarterback Brad Johnson also paid some guys $7,500 to scuff and break in the 100 footballs that were used in the Super Bowl. This isn't legal, by the way. 2003, Spygate. I'm not naive enough to think that Patriots were the only ones cheating during this time, but I'm also not going to ignore the fact that Roger Goodell ordered his minions to destroy all the Spygate
Minions.
2007. For anybody who says New England didn't get any advantage from filming opponent signals, just remember this. No team would continue to do something illegal unless it gave them advantages. As for tangible on-the-field matters, the 03 Patriots are responsible for the league reinforcing illegal contact rules defensively after their performance in the 2003 AFC Championship game. They illegally mugged and held Indianapolis' receivers all game long, which was a huge reason they advanced to the Super Bowl. Also, let's not ignore Tom Brady getting away with a shitload of dropped interceptions this postseason, and also John Casey's kick out of bounds. 2004, Spygate again. 2005, Seahawks fans will enjoy this one. The 2005 Steelers had a magical run to the Super Bowl thanks to 3 road playoff wins, but their 21-10 Super Bowl win over Seattle was tainted by several very questionable calls. Number 1, at the end of the first quarter, Seattle was at Pittsburgh's 17-yard line. Matt Hasselbeck found Darrell Jackson in the end zone for a touchdown, but Jackson was called for a controversial offensive pass interference.
That's not offensive pass interference.
However, because of the penalty, they ended up kicking a field goal. Number 2, on 3rd and goal at Seattle's 3-yard line at the end of the second quarter, down 3-0, historically dominant women respecter Ben Roethlisberger ran.
You gotta stop calling him that. You got. That game was rigged.
What?
Seahawks and Steelers.
Being reviewed, the play stood as called, but as a neutral observer,
I don't know.
no offense to Michael Vick, it looks like the ball never crossed the goal line. And finally, number 3, at the start of the fourth quarter, Seattle
Alright, guys, I'm gonna head out. I am super tired.
set up first and goal at Pittsburgh's 1-yard line, but Seattle was called for a hold on the play. Many argue there was no hold and that the Pittsburgh player being held, Clark Hagan, was
Alright,
also
guys,
3 interceptions. Plays later. On top of this, on the interception return, Seattle was whistled for a low block, which gave Pittsburgh great field position to do it eventually score off of. So Seattle went from being 1 yard away from taking the lead to Pittsburgh being only 40 yards away from scoring. Is this just sour grapes on the part of Seattle fans? Impact on the final result. Even the head ref from the game, Bill Levy, admits it. 2006. Anything on the field specifically that happened to negate the Colts' Super Bowl win, there have long been accusations that the team pumped in artificial crowd noise to make it tougher on visiting teams. This would certainly have come in handy, no offense to Shaquem Griffin, for the 2006 AFC Championship.
No.
What?